Heading into the 2020 season, the NFC West was often talked about by fans and analysts, and understandably so. One of the teams from the division went to the Super Bowl last year, one had an MVP candidate really until Lamar took over at the end of 2019, and one had a young, exciting quarterback that also happened to acquire one of the best receivers in the entire NFL for nearly nothing. The 49ers defense was often talked about due to players like Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, and first-round pick Javon Kinlaw. The running game also carried Jimmy Garoppolo to a Super Bowl, and Kyle Shanahan was looking like a genius due to having players like Raheem Mostert go off in critical postseason games. Now, for the Seahawks, they are of course led by Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, and people were very excited to see how they would play in 2020. Would DK step up and become a true wide receiver 1, or would he not make the leap in year 2? And for Arizona, would Kyler be able to lead them to a 1 seed the same way Pat did the Chiefs in 2018 and the same way Lamar did in 2019? The second-year MVP quarterback was 100% a trend, and would Kyler be able to keep it going was a legitimate and valid question heading into the year. But if you ask yourself, or say to yourself, wait a minute, there's another team in the NFC West that almost never gets talked about, and hand up in saying this, I was wrong about the Rams, as I thought they would be a 6-10 or 7-9 team, and I don't want to say the laughing stock of the NFL for trading for Jalen Ramsey, but they would be viewed as a franchise of exactly what not to do. Here we are though on game day for them as they play the Patriots the night I record this, and they are an 8-4 team leading their division and will hopefully be 9-4 by tomorrow morning. They have quietly went from an afterthought to one of the best teams in the NFC and will cause problems in the playoffs for whoever they play. And in today's video, we're going to discuss how the Rams have went from an overlooked team to one of the best teams in the NFC and why they will give opposing teams problems in the postseason. But before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And when looking at this team and why they were so slept on heading into the year, it all starts with the location. Yes, they play in one of the biggest cities in America, but Los Angeles really isn't a football town. Not only is LA not a football town, but there are so many distractions within the city itself. Hollywood, the beaches, and of course, the NBA champion Los Angeles Lakers. If the Rams are any other team that plays in a city like this, like the Jets for example, in a big metropolis, they can become pretty irrelevant pretty quickly. The Rams certainly weren't irrelevant as they were just 2 years removed from a Super Bowl appearance and finished 9-7 in 2019. But unless an NFL team is consistently going 14-2 or 15-1 in the city of LA, then they're simply not going to get a lot of attention, as there are so many other things people can do or just simply be interested in. That is something the Rams and Chargers will always have to fight, but anyways, now to the Rams roster and team itself. When looking at this team, it all starts with number 99. Aaron Donald has been a great player and a Hall of Fame caliber player for the past few years, but he himself cannot make a football team go 19-0 and win the Super Bowl. Having said this, it really makes you look at their roster and realize who is playing well and why they are so good. Jalen Ramsey has returned to being a top 2 to 3 corner in the NFL after a year in 2019 where he wasn't bad by any means, he just wasn't the player we're accustomed to seeing. Perhaps his best performance so far came a few weeks ago when playing against the receiver that is currently leading the NFL in receiving yards and holding DK Metcalf to 2 catches for 28 yards. If anyone was wondering how Jalen had been performing in 2020, that pretty much sums it up right there. He has been lights out, and a great defense having a great shutdown corner usually leads to a lot of wins, and not surprisingly for the Rams, it has. Their defense has given up the 5th fewest points in the NFL, the 2nd fewest yards, has created the 3rd most turnovers in the league, and has given up the least yards per play. In addition to all of this, they have also given up the least amount of passing touchdowns on the year, which is impressive considering they play in a division with Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray. Now this isn't just about Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, because while those guys are good, there are 9 other positions on the defense, and other players have to step up in timely situations. Troy Hill did that on Sunday as he had a pick 6 and was on PFF's Team of the Week. Other players that have stepped up throughout the year on the defensive side of the ball include John Johnson and Micah Kiser, and in some championship teams, rookies have to step up and play a bigger role too, and Jordan Fuller has more than done that this year. Now, he won't be a Rookie of the Year player player, largely due to players like Jeremy Chin and Julian Blackmon, but Fuller has been good in his own rights. And for the offensive side of the ball, it's really been a running back by committee. Darrell Henderson has had games with over 20 carries, and most recently Cam Akers has too. Akers has had a really good last 2 weeks, as he had 84 yards and a touchdown against San Francisco in Week 12, and had a 72-yard performance with a touchdown against Arizona just on Sunday. Now, none of these guys will be the next Todd Gurley, and that's fine, because Gurley was a once-in-a-half-decade player in his own rights. He was an Offensive Player of the Year award winner, and you could most definitely argue he should have won the MVP back in 2017. So while the future looks bright for Cam Akers, especially after these last 2 games, I'm sorry, he won't be the next Todd Gurley, he just won't. In Todd's first 4 years, he had over 6,300 total yards with 56 total touchdowns. And while we're on Todd Gurley, I do want to say he is one of the most underappreciated players of this generation. But for today's video, if by some miracle Cam Akers puts up that type of production, good for him, but that's an average of nearly 1,600 total yards with 14 total touchdowns per year. Anyways, this team is a running back by committee, and they currently rank 8th in rushing yards per game and are middle of the pack in terms of points per game. So while teams like the Chiefs and Saints don't hide anything and try to outscore everyone they play, it's teams like the Rams that can give the big boys of each conference trouble. The Rams only have 4 losses on the year, and what I don't think is surprising about those losses is 3 of them have been by 1 score. This is a team that won't beat you with Jared Goff running 35 yards to the right to fire a 59-mile-per-hour bullet to Cooper Kupp out of the corner of his eye to the other side of the field. No. Not by a long shot. This team in a way reminds me of, and I don't mean they're going to be a dynasty, let me get this straight, but the 2018 Patriots, where they will win with good team football. And Tom that year wasn't going to make plays like the 2007 Tom was, and likewise neither is Jared Goff. The Rams have won consistently and have been their best since coming off of the bye. They were 5-3 once upon a time, but now sit at 8-4 with tonight's game against New England and next week's against the Jets. So if everything goes according to plan, then there's no reason they won't be 10-4 with 2 divisional games left on the schedule after that. Those final 2 games will be at Seattle and home against Arizona, and while they won't be easy by any means, they certainly are winnable. I would be shocked if this team doesn't finish 11-5 at least, and the Week 16 game in Seattle could and probably will come down to who wins the NFC West. I don't think this needs to be said, but I will anyways. With how the Rams roster is structured and how they play, having a division home game means a lot more to them than it does Seattle. The Rams are 4-1 in their new stadium and are just 4-3 away from home. So while they will have to go on the road at some point if a second Super Bowl appearance is in store for them, they need that road to get there to be as little travel as possible. For the Rams, or for any team having to go on the road 3 times in the playoffs just to get to the Super Bowl, well, that's nearly impossible, but in the NFL playoffs, you truly never know. The Rams are a good, solid team that will cause problems for other NFC teams due to how they play and what their style is. It's going to be tough for the Seahawks to go into LA and win, and we already saw what happened the first time they did that. Russell Wilson was having an MVP caliber campaign up until that game, and he went in there and was under pressure all day. He was sacked 6 times, threw 2 interceptions, and the Seahawks lost the game. Now, beating a team twice in 1 year is never easy, let alone 3 times if these teams would play in the playoffs, but the Rams could very well go to the NFC Championship if they win the title because of how tough of an out they'll be in the playoffs. And just because the Rams aren't that great of an offense this year, statistically at least, that doesn't mean Sean McVay doesn't have any tricks up his sleeve. He is still a great offensive masterminded coach, and with the postseason looming, the Rams will still be a very dangerous football team. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I made this video to really show respect to the Rams and admit how wrong I was about them. They are a great football team, and as long as they have Sean McVay, they should never be underestimated like I underestimated them heading into the 2020 season. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know in the comments. Give me a score prediction for tonight's game, and I will see you guys tomorrow for Friday's video. If you want a video topic specifically, comment it below. Now, have a great day. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.